Okay, so in this video what we're going to do is we have a post here. Let's just say this is like some sort of blog. But what I want to do is I want to add some navigation. I want that navigation to actually fall here on the left-hand side, right? So what we could do there is first let's just create navigation. This is our HTML here. We have content, and we can use usually if you want to do a sidebar, one way to do that, you can use aside. That's just basically a div, a semantic div that you use those for like sidebars most of the time. And in there, we could use another semantic div, which is nav, right? That just tells the browser that this is a navigational element. Actually, before we do that, we want to create a list and say, maybe this will actually be a way to navigate articles, right? So this will be like article A, right? And we can just grab this here, oops, make some copies, right? And then this will be like article B, article C, article D, right? Actually, this is going to be, let's just go here and say a href equals, just put a pound sign in there for placer, right? And then over here, let's say oops. Okay, so now if I were to test this, actually, oops, that's not right. I don't know what I did there. These are LIs. Go back here. Okay, and then we want the UL to be there. Alright, so that's better. I don't know what happened there. Just tab that, test it. Okay, so now we have this article. This is what we want. This is where we want our menu to be. But we want it to be to the left, and we want this to show up over here to the right. Alright, so what do we do for that? Let's see. So the first thing we want to do is we want to have this aside. Let's come over here to our CSS, right? And what we're going to do here is we are going to say our aside. That's an element, right? And there's only one here, so we just have it aside. But let's actually give it an ID, right? And say we call it like left sidebar or something like that, right? So now we can say aside left sidebar. And we take out, this isn't the descendant, we're just giving a little specificity here, saying an aside that happens to be a left sidebar. Then here we could then say float left, right? Oops. And now if I test this, it's going to float left. But you notice like all this, like the way it's wrapping and stuff, that's not what we want, right? It's acting like a float, but that's not exactly the way we want it to act. So what we could do there is we can say that we want this aside to be a width of, we'll say 25%. Okay. Now when I test this, you'll see that it gives me some space, right? However, it's still giving me this scrolling. So then what you could do here is for this margin, for this text here on the content side, 25 is probably too much. Let's just say it's 15%, right? Then you can go here and say that, what are we calling that? Content. So content, if we look at content, we don't have content anywhere here. So let's add content. We have an ID of content, and we can say margin, actually margin left is, we say 15%, so it's 15%, right? And now when we test this, there you go. Now you have this div. The margin is 15% of what the browser size is, and this float is also 15% in terms of the width, which creates this sort of margin, and it makes it look as if it's aligning correctly. So there's a lot of ways of doing that. Also, something to keep in mind, I did this, made me notice, because we use percentages, it kind of is acting a little funky. There's two ways around that. right? First thing you could do is not use percentages, right? And you can say that this actually isn't 15, this is 100 pixels, right? And then the same thing with the here. You can say that's 100 pixels, and now when we were to test this, then it won't move no matter what. So now it's static. 100 pixels is probably too small. Let's just say it's 200 pixels, right? So now, there we go. So now that's static, and that works fine. The other way to do that is you could leave the percentages if you want it to have that sort of flow to it. Like if you want it to kind of move a little bit like this, but not to that size, you can do is you can like cap it, right? You can say, you know what, the content, or actually not the content. Let me see here where we at. Content. We could just say we'll just say body here. We'll give it this a max. I'm sorry, min width of maybe 700 pixels, right? If that's what you want to do. So now it's going to go and eventually, see, it just stopped. Now it's not resizing anymore. Maybe that's too little, so I could say maybe it's a min width of 800 pixels, right? And now, maybe that's a little bit better. So that's a way that you can sort of freeze up that area so it doesn't look all crazy. So there's another example on how you can use floats for that.